So I wanted to talk a little bit about intermittent fasting. I had asked the question last week of my Instagram followers what their thoughts were and whether they wanted to hear what my thoughts were. So it was overwhelmingly yes, I want to hear what you have to say and what the research says. So, as you know, I've been doing this ketogenic diet trial for the last couple days, feeling good and everything. And I've also been trying to work in a little bit of intermittent fasting into this. Now, first of all, let's start with what is intermittent fasting. So, intermittent fasting is going for a set period of time without eating. Now, this could be more than a couple hours. In a normal day, you may go a few hours without eating in between breakfast and lunch or lunch and dinner. That's not intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is intentionally not eating for a set period of time. So the way a lot of people do this is they'll finish eating at a certain time at night, and then in the morning they won't start eating until a little bit later than normal. So that's intermittent fasting, and there have been some benefits to this, but I'll get into that in a minute. Now, to start with, what's an intermittent fasting strategy? It could be some people finish eating at 6 p.m. and then they don't start eating until 8 a.m. the next day. So, that would be 14 hours of intermittent fasting. And a way to start it is there, but then you may want to, do 16 hours or do 18 hours. And so then you start to talk about like eating windows. I think this is another term that, a lot of people don't know what it means. So if your eating window is 8 hours, for example, that means you're eating 8 hours during the day. And then you're not eating, you're intermittently fasting for 16 hours during the day. So if we start eating at noon and we stop eating at 8, that would be an 8-hour eating window. So now that we've gotten some of the terminology out of the way, what I've been doing is I've been trying to, limit my eating or just not eat for, 12 to 14 hours while I've been on this ketogenic diet. Now, some mornings I'll wake up and I'll be like, well, I'm super hungry or I need energy or I have a long day or I'm not going to be able to choose when I get to eat. So I'll go ahead and eat. But other days, sometimes I wake up and I feel great and I just have like some water or coffee. And then I go through my workout and I don't eat until noon or something like that. And then that day I try and stop eating, before 8 o'clock or so. So that's like an 8-hour eating window. Now, some of the variations that you could do is include like a little bit of MCT oil, or if you're not on like a keto diet, you could include like maybe coffee with some cream or something like that to give you a little bit of energy. And what happens is your body takes that energy, it burns it off, and then we get to where you're basically fasting. So why would anybody want to do intermittent fasting? Now, I mean, the research is mixed, but there have been a couple studies that have shown that you can actually get some good progress in terms of weight loss and fat loss with intermittent fasting. So what happens scientifically is when you're not eating, your body basically says, okay, I'm not getting energy in. I can lower my insulin levels, and insulin, the storage hormone, that's what, when you eat carbohydrates, your body releases insulin to bring your blood sugar down and store it, or to help burn it off if you need it. So when you're not eating, your body is like, okay, well, we don't have any carbohydrates or fuel or anything coming in. What do? Oh, wait, we have all this fat that we're storing. Now, even very lean athletes still have maybe 5 to 10% body fat, so there is a lot of fat that's still readily available for your body to use. So your body dips into your fat stores and uses it to power energy and things like that. So when you're intermittently fasting, you basically have a certain amount of energy stored, and when your energy that's stored is depleted, your body reaches into its fat reserves. So in theory, when you're, not eating, you're reaching into your energy stores and you're burning your own fat. Now, this sounds all well and good, but sometimes people think of intermittently fasting as using, just doing this to lose weight. But the best way to lose weight is to operate at a caloric deficit. So even when you're doing a diet like the ketogenic diet, you actually still need to be at a caloric deficit. Now, it may increase your burn a little bit more, but you really need to be eating less than you're burning during the day. So that includes working out, you're burning calories. You need to not compensate for those calories with eating more. So first and foremost, to get intermittent fasting to give you any results, you have to be operating in a caloric deficit. And then, you think about things like removing processed foods, reducing your carbohydrates, all these like tweaks to your macronutrients and stuff like that are before I would recommend intermittent fasting. So let's say you're already operating at a caloric deficit and you're managing your macronutrients and you're really watching what you're eating. Then you need to remove things like processed foods, alcohol, stuff like that. And then maybe we're like lowering carbohydrates and trying to control insulin and stuff like that. So then I would say, all right, maybe we can try intermittent fasting. I mean, we're talking about like 5% changes. We're not talking about this is how you're gonna lose 100 pounds. Anybody that says that they lost 100 pounds via intermittent fasting, my guess is that they were actually restricting calories by intermittently fasting, and then the intermittent fasting pushed them over the edge to give them a little bit of an advantage. So, I mean, to recap and summarize, intermittent fasting, sure, I totally endorse the strategy. If you want to try it to try and balance out your blood sugar or to try and liberate some of that last like couple pounds or whatever, go for it. But we need to first and foremost start with operating at a caloric deficit, eating the proper foods, and then we can get to talking about these little tweaks and changes like intermittent fasting. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts.